Celestial Timeline. My name is Daniel Vallis from InformedChristians.com, a website ministry devoted to discerning current events from a Christian and biblical perspective. A special thank you to all those who send in news tips, your feedback, your thoughts, your comments. I greatly appreciate them, and I really do enjoy hearing from you. Thank you for all those who support this ministry, either financially and especially with your prayers. I need strength, I need wisdom, I need grace, and it greatly encourages me when I hear from people who say they are praying for me. And it's amazing to see what God is doing in our midst as we have a hunger for the things of righteousness and desire to learn more about Him. So again, thank you. This is a warning, but it is not a prediction. I do not know the future, but I will show you what is on the radar and what appears to be coming, and we can be knowledgeable of it and have an understanding of it and ask the Lord for wisdom in light of it. If you have not yet, definitely download and print out our booklet, Exodus 2, The Bride Goes to the King's House, which explains a lot of the details leading up to what we're talking about here, especially if you're new to this channel. And we also have some additional handouts that go with it, also in the link, that just keep you up to date on everything that we've been learning since the booklet. But today we're going to look at a little bit more at the celestial timeline. What is going on in the days ahead beyond what we've just been looking at lately. And let's get a little bit of a larger view of what's going on right now prophetically. We've seen the Star of Bethlehem signs point directly to the first Purim, which was the fast of Esther, the commemorative fast, and also is pointing at the same time to Purim. So it's really underscoring the character behind both the fast of Esther and Purim. And that person was Esther. And we learned about her preparation to become the queen and to go to the king's house. And it fits so much with what we had been seeing over the past year. And that had brought us to this point. Jupiter and Venus, the morning star and the king planet. So it's interesting that both of those, in both instances, pointed us to this time to get the bride ready to go to the king's house. And now we find ourselves at double feasts of Esther and double Jupiter and moon signs, right with Leo the Lion sign right in the middle of it. It's amazing to see the bookends, how this is duplicated, and we see a time marked out, so to speak, drawing our attention directly to it. We've talked about Leo the Lion and in prophecy in Genesis, and we've been focusing in on Jupiter's path right now at the paw of Leo the Lion and how it's getting ready to eventually start departing from Leo the Lion. So we already have the expectation just with this celestial sign alone of things happening very soon. Not to mention everything else that we've seen and fill the whole booklet with. So much going on right now. And so yesterday I was playing around in Stellarium and zooming in and studying Jupiter's path a little bit more and just getting to know it a little bit better. And so I wanted to graph it out here to view it more as a timeline because we've seen so much happen over the past year and especially recently too. But when we look at it, it's almost literally a timeline in a sense of what has happened, what is happening, and what is going to happen. So it is an amazing timeline almost all by itself. One of the amazing things about this sign that I love is anybody anywhere in the world can go outside and look at this sign and see it in the heavens. You know, this isn't limited to people who have understanding of astronomy software, so to speak, or anything else. Anybody can go outside, look up into the heavens and see Jupiter shining bright at this time of year, right in Leo. And if someone is even vaguely familiar with the Bible, that should raise questions of, wait a minute, doesn't the Bible say something about Lion of Judah or something like that? And it should stir some thought processes. And then especially if they think about it more, wait a minute, doesn't the book of Revelation mention something about the Lion of Judah too? And the more we spend in God's Word, the more God can remind us of what's in His Word. But this sign is amazing because anybody could see it. And with all the celestial signs leading up to it, we have very little excuse not to pay attention to it. But anyone can see it, and it's not limited to just one day. It's been drawing our attention right now across multiple days. And it's available to the entire world, to someone with even no education can understand and see that there are celestial signs of significance going on right now that are drawing our attention to them. And it should spur us to want to learn more of what is going on. How do I get an understanding of the times? So just a few days ago, right back at Purim, which was exactly when the Star of Bethlehem signs pointed to him, that kicked off the time frame and the bookmark that we were looking at. And that was on February 23rd, and that gave a beautiful picture of Jupiter and the moon, illustrating the bride and the king A beautiful picture that reminds us we need to get ready because the king is coming. And then on March 8th, Jupiter reached its closest to Earth, and it's also shining the brightest right now. It was on the same day of the total solar eclipse, too, as well. So multiple major celestial signs going on right now, drawing our attention. And it was also when Jupiter was closest to Leo's hind paw. So that definitely brought our attention to the Genesis passage. And it's been amazing. I can go out every night and look up into the sky right now while I'm recording this. Jupiter and Leo is almost directly right overhead. It's a beautiful, clear night. I could see it every night. It reminds me of the reality of this prophecy and the times we're at right now. And so if you have not yet seen it, go outside. Now, it's midnight when I'm recording this now, so it's a little bit late. But Jupiter is out most of the night because it's shining brightest now. You almost can't miss it. But go out, look at it, meditate, spend some time talking with God, and allow Him to impress on your heart the urgency of this time we are at right now. So much going on right now, it would be foolish not to stop what we're doing and give more attendance to what is going on. And in just a few days, Jupiter and the moon will be together again, right in the midst of very prophetic and significant biblical feast days and historical markers as well. This time is very laden with significance that we must pay attention to it. On the 21st, Jupiter and the moon will be close together, right at the feet of Leo. Again, it should remind us of the passages in Genesis when he's coming to gather his people. Who? Messiah coming to gather his people. Christ coming to gather his believers, the ones who are watching for him, his bride. Let's think in today, the celestial signs that we've been seeing for months now, and especially in the last month or so with the planets and all the meaning of that. What we're watching is a play demonstrated and acted out in the heavens above us. It's not a one-day sign or just even a week. It's been going on for over a month now, acting out a beautiful picture, drawing our attention of what God wants us to do and what He's about to do. It's a play in the heavens going on right now above us. Are we paying attention? There's a lot more meaning to lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh, because the signs are above us. We need to get our eyes off the TV, off this stupid world down here and all the stupid stuff going on down here. Get our eyes off that, lift it up, and see what Christ is trying to tell us. It's a beautiful picture. But we have to lift up our heads. We have to get up. We have to change what we're looking at. We have to change our focus. And when we do, then our focus can be corrected and we can see what we should be focusing on. As I was looking at the path of Jupiter, I noticed that it was around May is when Jupiter is going to be turning and really starting its direct course toward Virgo, the next constellation, which will reach over the next few months. But in May is the turning point. And you could really say in May is when it marks that Jupiter is starting to depart and it's on its way out from between the feet of Leo. And when we look on the timeline, we find that time period. And it's a little hard to say exactly. I tried to zoom in on Stellarium to find out exactly when, but about the 8th, 9th, or 10th is when Jupiter changes its retrograde motion and starts heading the other way. And that's right about the time, it's really just a little bit before Israel observes its Independence Day. A very significant time marker in prophecy, when Israel became a nation and was recognized legally by other nations too as well. Very important time right there, right when Jupiter is turning, right at the turning point. You could almost say that the prophetic focus is now turning back toward Israel, because at that point it's starting to head toward the woman, who's a picture of Israel. So there's a lot on this timeline being acted out in the heavens right above us. And this is one reason why it's very important to study calendars and make sure that diligence is given to it, that it's correct. When we just white out the other stuff for a moment and we look at the rabbinical calendar, how it compares to this. Now, we've been following a biblical calendar that ignores the rabbinical leap month this year because it's not needed this year. And TorahCalendar.com does a great job with their articles and studies of the different calendars, explaining why different ones have their flaws. So we try to follow a biblical calendar, and that has shown us a lot and really given us a lot of direction that if you were following the rabbinical calendar, you would have no clue. You would not be alerted and drawn to a lot of this stuff. So the rabbinical calendar it's really blind guides leading to the blind. You're just going to end up in the ditch because they're leading you and directing you in the wrong direction. You know, we talked about just a few days ago how the fig trees are already leafing out, already bringing forth figs already. The barley's at the stage where it's going to be ready for Passover in just a few days. And yet the rabbinical calendar, just because of some random stipulation, they added in an extra month, and so that automatically pushes down the feasts over a month and really offsets things. And this is why it's so important to make sure the calendar is correct, because it does affect when the feasts are and when pictures and patterns and shadows that we are supposed to be watching for, when those are alerted to our attention. Now, in just a few days, we find very significant biblical events and celestial events coming up. We see Jupiter and the moon on March 21st, and then the full moon on March 23rd. And that's pretty much going to be on the fast of Esther, right at Passover too as well. But both of the next celestial events are right after the triumphal entry date, when that was commemorated. And that's happening this weekend. And when we look in Stellarium, this is what it'll look like in the night sky. The moon is getting fuller and fuller, and it's approaching Jupiter. It's moving into Leo. So it's a beautiful picture of how the bride is approaching the king and really going to the king. But that is on the 19th. And the 19th is very, very significant. And really the 19th, 20th, that weekend there, which is in just a few days, this weekend, I think this is the most significant date on the radar at the moment. Again, I do not know the future, but of everything we see coming down the pipe with all the patterns and types, the triumphal entry is the most important for what we are looking at. If you're familiar with the story, when Christ entered Jerusalem, this was when they were waving the palm branches and laying the garments down on the road. He rode in on a colt, and we need to pay attention to these details because it does come into play in prophecy. Let us look at Zechariah 9:9, where it foretells what would happen. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee. He is just, and having salvation, lowly, and riding upon an ass, and upon a colt the foal of an ass. Back in Zechariah 9:9, Jerusalem was told their king was coming and how he was going to be coming, how they would be able to identify him, the son of David, of the tribe of Judah. Now let's look at the fulfillment, Luke 19:29. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethany at the mount called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying, Go ye into the village over against you, in the which at your entering ye shall find a colt tied, whereupon yet never man sat. Loose him, and bring him hither. And if any man ask you, Why do you loose him? Thus shall you say unto him, Because the Lord hath need of him. And they that were sent went their way, and found even as he said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said unto them, Why loose ye the colt? And they said, The Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and they cast their garments upon the colt, and they set Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes in the way. It's amazing when we look at this passage, and we see that Christ is about to fulfill his first coming. This was at the triumphal entries when he fulfilled prophetically his first coming, and he's about to fulfill it. And we see disciples going to prepare the way. We find those who are allowing their material, their property, to be used for preparing the way and to be used for the king when he comes. And we see others in the disciples laying down their garments to make way for the king. We need to ask ourselves, what are we laying down as we see the king coming? What are we putting forth and volunteering to be used in his service, to help prepare the way, to lay down at his feet? What are we laying down even now, as we see the king approaching? Let us continue. And when he was come nigh, even now at the descent of the Mount of Olives, the whole multitude of the disciples began to rejoice and praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works that they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King that cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory in the highest. And some of the Pharisees from among the multitude said unto him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. And he answering and said unto them, I tell you that if these should hold their peace, the stones would immediately cry out. And when he was come near, he beheld the city, and wept over it, saying, If thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. For the days shall come upon thee that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side, and shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation. God had foretold long before this that he was coming, how he was coming, and scarcely few were there to welcome him. What about today? When Christ comes, shall he find faith on the earth? Who will he find wise and watching and ready? It should arrest our heart and our attention when we consider the question, will Christ weep over me when he returns? Am I watching? Am I making myself ready? Am I laying down things? Am I preparing for the coming of the Lord? Or am I like the Pharisees, not excited at all? They don't care. We find this division even today, a separation. Who is shining bright? Who is not shining bright? The division is growing very stark. Of those who will shine bright for Christ, those who will step out of the boat, those who will walk on water, those who will go overboard, those who will serve Christ and run to Christ and not care about what the Pharisees say. Jesus did not apologize for his disciples. His disciples were praising God and giving glory that the King was coming. They were rejoicing and praising God with a loud voice. And they were excited that the King was coming. And Jesus, with his stern answer to the Pharisees, he made it clear that it was only appropriate, it was only reasonable that his servants should be so excited and so shining bright when the King is coming. It is our duty to prepare the way, to prepare for the King, to lay down our own possessions, our time, our strength, our heart, our focus, everything we have before the King because he is coming. You know, it's a sad commentary that even the rocks would get more excited about the King coming than the Pharisees. God forbid that we ever tell our brothers and sisters that they're serving God too much. We should be provoking each other to love and to good works, and so much the more as we see the day approaching. And I'm here to encourage you and let you know, get excited for Christ. Run to Christ. We can rejoice and praise God with a loud voice because we are seeing all the mighty works that God is doing even now and showing us so many things and drawing our attention to him because he wants to draw us near. Don't worry about the Pharisees. Don't worry about the peanut gallery. Christ will weep over them. When Christ comes, where will we be standing? Will we be standing with the Pharisees? Or will we be standing with the disciples? Rejoicing and praising God with a loud voice, excited that the King is coming. The triumphal entry, when the King entered into Jerusalem for his first coming. The 10th day of the month was also significant because it was when Christ presented himself as the Lamb. Exodus 12:3. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house. And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbors next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish. A male of the first year, ye shall take it out from the sheep, or from the goats. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, which would be Passover. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. On the 10th day of the month, 4 days before Passover, the lamb that was going to be slain needed to be separated, presented, and examined. And this is what Christ did at his triumphal entry. He came to Jerusalem and was there for 4 days, and the Pharisees asked him many questions and examined him. And that was when he presented himself as the lamb. It was on Passover, 4 days later, that he finished what he started 4 days before that. Hebrews 9:24. For Christ is not entered into the holy places made with hands, which are the figures of the true, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Nor yet that he should offer himself often, as the high priest entereth into the holy place every year with blood of others. For then must he often have suffered since the foundation of the world. But now once, in the end of the world, hath he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, but after this the judgment, so Christ was once offered to bear the sins of many. And unto them that look for him shall he appear the second time without sin unto salvation. Are you looking for him to return a second time, keeping in mind when the first time was? The triumphal entry is very significant because it also points toward a future fulfillment at the end of the tribulation, when Christ will return riding on a horse. The first time he came on a colt. The last time when he finishes, he's coming on a horse. This time period, before Passover, is very, very significant. We do not know the day or hour, but we do see the day approaching. And one could even say that Christ may return before this potential marker, saving the fulfillment of that for the end of the tribulation. We don't know. All we can say is the radar shows that there's a very significant date coming up this weekend, which most fits his first coming. Genesis 49. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall a gathering of the people be, binding his foal unto the vine, and his asses colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. This is a prophetic narrative, extending all the way to the end of the tribulation. But right now we find Jupiter, the king, a symbol of Messiah, right in the lion, Judah's feet, getting ready to depart in a few weeks. Right in the midst of celestial signs that also hearken to the king and the queen, his bride, and also commemorative events also commemorating a bride and the lamb and the triumphal entry. It would be foolish not to give great attendance to what we see going on right now. Revelation references these pictures. Revelation chapter 2 and 3 are the letters to the churches. And there's a distinct warning in every single letter. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. There's a reason why the warning is there. The reason the warning is there is because those warnings are far more important than most Christians give them. The promises and the promised rewards that he lists in those letters are dead serious, and we must give attendance to the things he warns us about and the things he calls us to do and how he calls us to be. If you have not yet, watch our video, The Letters to the Seven Churches, and we walk you through chapters 2 and 3. A link in the description box. But immediately after these letters, it starts out with, after this I looked. After what? After the warnings to the churches where he repeatedly told them, I am coming quickly. Listen to what I'm warning you about. He goes straight into chapter 4 and it says, after this. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was as it were of a trumpet, talking with me, which said, Come up hither, and I will show thee things which must be hereafter. It's a transition and a rehearsal of the rapture at this point. Of the church who is listening, they will be called up hither. A door will open in heaven. And then it progresses to chapter 5, verse 5. And one of the elders saith unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb, as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. Verse 9. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain, and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred, and tongue, and people, and nation, and hast made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. This is the church. These are the ones redeemed by Christ out of every nation and tribe. They are in heaven before the scroll is even opened. The rapture takes place before the tribulation, before any part of the tribulation starts. Not even 1 seal has opened yet. The Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, he has gathered his people to him before he opens up the judgment to reclaim what is rightfully his. We see the Lion, we see the Lamb, we see the King, and so we also see his signs in the heavens right now, warning us that he is about to gather his people. Have we lifted up our heads? Have we lifted up our hearts? Are we focusing our attention on heavenly things at this time? Or are we more concerned with the fleeting baubles of this world? Will Christ weep over us when he returns? Or will he find us serving him first and highest above all else, willing to lay down anything at his feet to prepare the way to be ready when he comes? Will he find us excited, rejoicing, and looking forward to the King is coming? Let us prepare our hearts. Let us prepare the way. Let us be ready, running unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith. let us look for him not with just our eyes, but with our heart, with our strength, with our soul, and with all our mind. Serve Christ first and highest above all else. Maranatha.